Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Let's get back to work on the Fokker D.VII. Okay, seeing that we got the little fake engine put together, ready to go, and that can't be installed until we get the plane all covered, painted up, and then it's going to get installed. So I still have that little bit of work to do on it. Now the next thing we're going to do is, because I did find that aluminium everywhere else in the world, I did find both sheets. I had one in the box and one not in the box, so I did find them both. Then they give you these other two little pieces too, and they are for, this little piece here is for a door on the front, on the left side of the plane, so that's going to be a door. And what I'll probably do is put a little piece of wire, just epoxy little piece of wire in there, so it just shows that it's a hinge joint on it. And then the other little piece is for a triangular section, and I'll show you on the plans. Regardless of this is going to go on or not, I don't know, because if you go ahead and look at the picture that I'm putting up right up in here somewhere, that is how the front of Lothar von Richthofen's plane was. His was a little bit different style on the side, how the vents came out. And even though this is not a concourse plane, I have no intention of showing it for any kind of awards, because I just want to fly it. I'll pretty much try to stay as true as possible to the way his was, because I'm not spending $600–700 on the lozenge pattern fabric. Mine, if you paid attention or if you guys had watched earlier on, I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do, and this is the middle wing for, I believe it's a quarter scale. Fokker DR1. And what I plan on doing on the bottom of the wing and the top of the wing, and I'm hoping you're going to see this okay. I got this plane from a friend of mine. I'm going to finish it and we're going to have it ready to fly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the pattern like they did back in the day. The original D7s, when they were going ahead and they were doing, before they started production on them, for the ones they were testing with, this is how they did it. They didn't use the lozenge pattern yet. It was just painted on. So although this is just like two colors, I'll probably be using a 3-color. So you go ahead, put the base color on it that might be like that same color blue that was on the bottom of this one. Then you're just going to come in with and just dry brush. So I will probably be doing the same exact thing. I just have to figure out what color I want to do that dry brush on, and it might be something very close to what this is. Now, what I planned on doing with the plans, what I intended to do with the plans, here's the plans, and that's what we have to cut out in aluminum. And what I always do, and probably what most of you guys that have done this before do, go ahead, tape some piece of paper on, tape it together on the plans, and do an outline of it, so that way that will be our template, because we want to figure out how big, because they say cut everything oversized. We will be cutting everything oversized, but my plan is to go ahead and I'll run a pair of scissors around the outside of it. They're saying that they want about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch gap between the two. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to leave this hole just the way it sits. I want to see how it sits on the front of the plane. And just for that reason that I'm not 100% sure, the way the whole thing is set up, if it's going to flow the way we want it to. So I'll go ahead, cut this out. I will stick this, I'll just tape it to the side of the fuselage on one side up front, and then I'll go ahead and bring you guys from in here out there just so you can get a good look at how it's going to size out and what we're going to have to do. All right, the template is all taped on and everything lines up. When you look at the pictures in the books, this is where it actually splits across the top. So when this comes up, there's just going to be an empty spot here. You know, we're going to go ahead and it's got to be covered anyway. If I want to tighten that up, I can do that before I go ahead and put the covering on it. Just be a matter of just putting some balsa down in there, because I still need to leave a gap just so that way when you put it all together, you're not going to have contact where it's going to kind of bind everything up. So what they want is they want the top up here even with the top with the cross, the longeron up in the front. So and that's exactly where that's sitting, and it's all placed properly down here where you have the wing, where the wing sits up against it. It's the wing bucket, whatever you want to call it. So this is fine. As it goes across the bottom, it stands a little bit proud, and this is going to be sanded down. This is going to fit just right. Now when it comes up to here where the chin cowl comes on, it stands proud. I don't know if you can see it. It's about 1/4 inch. Now let me go ahead and then try to hold that in place, just so we can kind of get a view of what it's going to do. Because this here is actually not ready to put into position. Let me rotate the camera this way a little bit. Because I still have to do some more sanding on this. So this is just in a reference because it's not going to sit proper. But this part will come up, and when this is in position here, you see how it comes up almost flush right here with the bottom of this. So when this part here gets all sanded down, so it's just a little teeny bit of a ridge sticking up, and this sits up, this will line up properly with where it's got to sit in relationship to the chin cowling. So now the next thing for me to do is to go ahead, and I will be using this as my template for cutting around. So I'll just go ahead and tape this, just use some masking tape, tape it to the aluminum, and because it's 12 thousandths aluminum, you can cut those very easily with a good pair of scissors. Now, I'm a fan of Fisker scissors, and I sharpen them myself. And because when I'm cutting fabric, and you guys will see that hopefully coming up within the next month, because I hope within the next month I hope to be covering this plane. I use very sharp scissors, and when they're sharp enough, you don't have to go like this when you're cutting it. You just start the cut and just hold it in an angle and just slice right through the fabric. So these will be getting sharpened. And the last plane I did, which was in that kind of fabric, it was, I believe that was which was the stomp that I just finished. I dropped these things and I tried to catch them. Don't ever do that with sharp scissors. Slice some fingers with it. So let me go ahead, get these things taped up, cut out, and then I'll bring you back. All right, we've got it ready to cut out. Now, I told you just got to sharpen a good pair of scissors. I never showed you guys how to do this. One of these days I'll show you how I sharpen my scissors. These are the scissors that I've had for probably, I don't know, 15 plus years, and they work great. And all you do is at least once a year I do sharpen them up, and it's typically when I'm covering a plane. But now this aluminum, they say, is 12 thousandths of an inch thick, which is really thin, but these are sharp, and all you got to do is when you sharpen your scissors, just cut, and it's just like butter. So yeah, so when you sharpen your scissors up, you can actually do a lot more than you think you can on them. So let me go ahead, cut this out, and I'll bring you right back. All right, I got them cut out. And of course, this is going to be the outside. Why? Because this side already has some kind of primer on it, and that's the side we're painting. All right, now what I did was, because I got these things cut out and they're not finely sanded down the way they're going to get done when they're ready to mount, what I have to do is I have to separate these things. It's going to be cut this way or that way. So this is going to be the diagonal cut line on it, and I'm going to pretty much trim right up to the edge of the paper. So we're looking at about a 1/16 of an inch gap, which is, they said, between a 1/16 and an 1/8 inch. And with the front of my plane, 1/16 of an inch was going to be the gap we were looking for. So I just got to go ahead and cut these. These paper little templates will not be thrown away because I'm going to make the screw hole mounts on here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll take these things, because I should have done it before, but I'll take this thing, put it back down on top of the plans, mark the dots where it's going to be. I don't really have to tape them back on if I don't care to. I can just get it close enough so it's kind of held into place just by a couple points with tape, but not all the way around. And then I'll just put a little teeny wire size drill bit in the Dremel tool and just put a little hole through it that can be enlarged to whatever size it's going to be for the screws. But just as long as I've got a reference hole, I know where they're going to go. Welcome back to another day of my madness. I'm trying to get everything set up so we can go ahead and cut the louvers and glue the louvers into position. The picture of Lothar's plane. The louvers themselves I thought were just different than the ones that were in the plans. And lo and behold, once you take a really close look, they're pretty much in the identical spot. So I'm good with that one. The thing is that the one that they show here on the plans, it shows one coming down right about here on the plans, but on the picture of Lothar's plane, it's very possible they just omitted that in it because it didn't show this outer line. It's just an artistic impression of the way that the artist decided the plane was going to look. So let me go ahead and get you guys off the stand and try to explain my madness. Alright, I decided to kind of turn this into engineering drawings, just so that way I've got everything that once all that is going to be brought out here, I've got to figure out exactly where each louver is going to sit on it for measurements. The panel here, the left and the right side. The right side is smaller, it's going to be higher up on the bottom. So I did not make a registration mark here, but I did show one that it's the same height as this front louver. So that's going to be my reference when I'm drawing on it, because yes, I'm going to have to draw on that. All right, first and foremost, what I did is I made a count of the louvers and the dimensions. And of course, that's in inches. So I'm showing I've got 20 I've got to cut because it's 10 for each side. And I do have the dimensions of these. So as you can see on here, I came in, this was measured at 2.625. So we need 2 of the 2.625, so that's 2 5/8. So all these will be cut out of this material, and that's going to be the next step before I bring you guys back after I explain this. So what I did is the placement on the height of this. I made all the measurements here on the outside. Now what will happen is when this piece comes in, because I'm going to tape both of these together and then tape it to the plans. So that way I'm making references all the way across, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other side where it's inverted, because this side here, and this is going to be for the left-hand side, right-hand side. I don't know if I can figure this one out, because I've got them cut out for both sides, and this will be on the left-hand side, which of course you're going to see the silver side of it, which is just going to make this even more fun for me to go ahead and draw lines, because I'm going to have to make marks on this side and try to transpose them over to the other side, because as of right now I could possibly bring this to work and go ahead and make a photocopy of this on some 8.5 by 14. I think might work. I'd have to look and take a look and see, or just try to, because see, I've got a scanner big enough at work where I can do this. I don't think my scanner upstairs will do it. I'll bring it upstairs and take a look, because I'd rather do it all at home if I can. Make a mirror image of this and then go ahead, and then we'll just as long as it's the same size when I print it out, it would be good. So anyway, so regardless, we'll get it all set up on, I'm going to call it the easier side, because this is going to be the left side, and we should be good to go. But all right, so what I'll be doing, like the panel that goes right here, we're going to go ahead, we've got the vertical lines and we've got the horizontal lines. And on the panel lines here, I just marked panel. So that way when I draw the cross reference lines on this, it's going to tell you where this panel is going to go. This triangular panel over here, I did not make measurements on it. I'm going to measure it off the plans, right and left, and then the top where it's going to stop. So, and mine's close to this. It may not be dead on, but it's going to be close. So it's at least close enough to give us reference point. So, and we're pretty good on the angle. We're pretty good up on the top too. Now, how I knew how to measure the arcs is, if you guys don't have one of these, get it. Doesn't matter where you get it from. I've had mine for years. It doesn't even have to be that name, Template Designs, but this is the one I've got, and I've had, like I said, I've had it since probably 2006. And they work out great when you have to draw radiuses. So this one came in, and it ended up being a 9/32 radius. According to the plans, came in, drew the lines, just sanded it. So that was good. And it was the same thing on this. Same radius here, same radius down here. So everything will match up very nicely with the plans. So I'm okay with everything and how it's turning out here. So what's going to happen here on this for the louvers, I do have the heights marked off. Like number 1 right here come out here. So the number 1 louver, so here's the mark. So these will be drawn across the actual side parts. So that way the lines will come across and they'll come down. Now, the distance these things are off, I didn't want to do it by the distance off the leading edge. So what I did, this comes from my mechanical background, the Louvers datum line. So what we're doing is this is going to be the datum line pretty much going almost up the center. I decided to make it even with this one louver number 4, so that's the rearmost part of it. So then what you're going to be doing is if you want to find out where this one is for the vertical line, you're going to be measuring off the datum line from the plans, and boom, that's where it's going to go. So it'll be from here to here, that's the datum line for the rear on this one, and from here to here is datum line on this one. I'll do the same thing to the rear side too, and I will make the datum line off the rear on this one as well, just like here. So it'll be from this point to here, this point to here, so, and it's all going to be good. So for the rear louvers, it's going to be measured off the trailing edge of the panel. So if you want to come in this side and do it metric wise, we're at 12.5 millimeters, which is just shy of a ½ inch. So even if we want a ½ inch on this, it's okay. It's not going to affect anything. Only you and I are going to know it's a ½ millimeter, or, you know, about a 64th of an inch farther away than what the plan showed. So my goal today is to try to at least get the louvers all cut out and get everything ready to glue into position. Let me go ahead and show you why these things are very important to have, and it's got to do with making the little quarter radius that you're going to be sanding off and getting ready, because that's the way that they're going to look when they're done. So what I do is I take this thing, and the circle itself would actually make a 15/16 circle, full circle. So what we're going to do is we're just looking for a quarter round. We're only looking for a quarter of the way around the circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing lined up, and hopefully you're going to be able to see it well enough. Is what we need to do, because there's the 15/16 hole. So we just want a quarter of that. So we're just quarter the way around the circle. So what we're going to do with that is, while that's all lined up properly, just take a pencil and go ahead, just because it's sliding in my hand, it's hard enough to do on the bench, let alone in front of a camera. So what I'm going to do is come on inside and just go ahead and draw that little quarter round circle. So as you can see, it comes out with a little quarter round. That's very difficult. Let me show you the other side, because this is, so there's a little quarter round. Now what I'm going to do is you just need to sand that off. You can do it with just a regular block sander, or what I do is just run over to the sander. So then once it's sanded, what you do is you come on in with your sanding block, and I just want to go ahead and clean this radius up. It's only a couple swipes on each side, just to make sure that it's pretty much down to the line and it looks nicely rounded. All right, so now that is sanded to that position. Then what I do, I come in with a little foam block sander, and I don't even know what grit this is. It's probably like a, well, I don't know, maybe a 320 grit, because it is balsa. And then what you want to make sure is that you've got the proper side up. I'm going to make sure I got the proper side up. All right, because what it is on one side you got nothing, the other side you got an X, because that's the part that's going to sit flat, because you want your 90-degree angle here. You don't want to mount it upside down and realize you did it wrong. So what you want to do is just go ahead and just sand it till it looks good. Because all you're trying to do is just round it over so it looks like it's something that's been put in and gone through some kind of press, just so it's got a good shape to it. And then once that's done, you just kind of round over the trailing edge just a little teeny bit, and then I just come in and sand the face, and it's done. So it's not that difficult to do. The hardest part, once again, is not getting aggravated in this, but this saves you a big issue that you can run into, because when you screw too many of these things up, you got a lot more work to do. As y'all can see, we got the plane back inside. You know what that means? That means by the clock on my phone, it's 7:05. It's time for me to get out of the shop. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this video part 1 of whatever we want to call that. The aluminum cheeks, the aluminum siding. Yeah, I'm about halfway through, and I know this is going to be a long video, so I decided just recently we're going to split it into 2. So let's go ahead, call this video number 1, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm back down in the shop.